Renalia sprang awake from the small pile of straw that served as her bed, eager to start the day. "Happy deck day, baby," her mama said, opening her arms wide. Renalia hopped over on her tiptoes and jumped into her mother's hug. "Oof," Mama said. "I can't believe you're 10 already. You've grown into a fine young lady." "Good morning, Mama." Renalia wished she could stay in her mother's warm embrace till breakfast was ready, but she had her duties. "Happy deck day, Renya," her father exclaimed. He knelt next to the fire pit, adding more lignite, the dry and compressed coal they produced from their land. "Good morning, Papa," Renalia said as she hugged him from behind. She squealed with delight as Papa suddenly stood up, wrapping her arms and legs around him as he trotted around the hut. "Oof," Papa said. "You're getting too heavy for me." "Lies." She reached under his armpits to deliver punishment. Mama laughed as Papa fake-bucked from being tickled, jumping high enough to almost reach the ceiling. "Renalia, can you help me with wrapping lunch once Papa Horse collapses? These old eyes aren't as good as they used to be." "Okay," she acknowledges in between whoops. A short while after, Renalia took over lunch assembly at the table, barely illuminated by the soft glow of the fire pit. She frowned at the 4 piles of barley sitting on beds of reed leaves, noticing they each had 3 pieces of cured fish. Mama had given her an extra portion for her birthday. 3 whole pieces. Her stomach almost leapt at the sight, but she suppressed it with practiced ease. She glanced at her parents out of the corner of her eyes. Papa was making sure the pot of oatmeal sat correctly over the coals. She quickly snatched the fingernail-sized fillets from the smallest heap and placed them with the bigger ones, and before they could notice, she wrapped each of them in reed leaves. She was small for her age. She didn't need to eat as much. Just the other day, she had to tilt her head up to talk to little Jenny. Little Jenny, who's not even 9, more than a year away from getting decked. Besides, she should celebrate and honor her parents on her birthday, not herself. Mama did the difficult part of giving birth to her 10 years ago, and Papa had run all the way to the manor to fetch Healer Rensto at Mifanoi's request. "I'll get more water," Papa announced. "No, I'll do it," Renali said. "I need to get stronger." This was the last day of the plan she had put together 2 years ago. Back then, she had asked Chief Kian, a village elder, how she could get a strength card like her papa. He had said the cards reflected the heart's desire, that she should do the actions requiring strength, and all the while she should wish that she could do more with her body. Father Cornelius had disagreed, saying that God rewarded the good and worthy with what they deserved. The two had continued debating, using big words that Renalia didn't understand. But she had gotten what she wanted, seeing no reason not to put both methods into practice. Of course, she had also asked Granny, but as was often the case with Granny, she was not sure she understood. Granny had said, "Bah, not a doing, not a deserving. Card is what girl is, what girl was." Outside, the sun had yet to fully chase the moon away with its radiance. The soft glow of the moon in the west still outshone the general brightening in the east. But even together, they had barely lit the path to the brook. Nevertheless, Renalia's strolled with certainty, having made this pre-dawn trip numerous times before. With each step, she spread her toes, sinking them into the dew-coated soil and enjoying the caress of the soft earth. Some of the village women were also out and about at this time of day. Some milked cows, some fetched water, some picked berries. They all performed various chores before husbands and babies demanded their attention. Renalia had first joined their number a couple of years ago, when Mama became bedridden after her last miscarriage, and she had continued ever since. She stretched a little after filling up the bucket with water, enjoying the sounds of the bubbling brook and the squelch of mud under her feet. Straddling the bucket, she placed her forearms on the inside of her legs and grabbed the handles with both hands. She leaned back, slowly lifting the bucket, then waddled back home with the bucket underneath her forearms. Good thing neither Shim nor Olek were around to see her stumble about. When she got back to the hut, Papa picked up the bucket with one hand and her with the other, his arms around her stomach like she was a sack of oats. "Ah!" screamed Mama. "Did you purposely bury your feet in the mud?" She hurried over and pointed a forefinger at Renalia's dangling feet. As she mentally activated her cleanse skill, the accumulated mud flew off, plopping down outside the doorway. "Why didn't you wear your shoes?" "The mud feels nice," Renalia replied sheepishly. Besides, he can clean my feet better than the shoes. She stretched her toes farther apart, while Mama sighed and cleansed again. She stayed silent on the third reason, so when Papa placed her down, she shuffled her feet away from the shoes, not wanting them to compare the two easily. While he ate the buttered oatmeal, Mama said, "Take one of your barley bundles to Granny at lunchtime, okay? But I wanted to be with you guys when I get my deck." Papa explained, "Your mom and I talked about it last night. We know you're a patient girl. But we also know you've been waiting to get decked for a long time," Mama continued. "And who knows when the new Baron will come around to take a look at all the new decks this year. So you can ask Granny if she'll translate your deck. We believe you can trust Granny with your cards. She's been a blessing to this family." Renalia jumped up and went around the table to hug her parents, rewarding them for the suggestion. She saw the wisdom of asking Granny, even though the thought of sharing her deck made her cringe. Papa raised an eyebrow. "You weren't going to experiment secretly with your cards, were you?" "I will tell no lies," Renalia proclaimed with her best innocent expression. Mama chuckled, but then gave her a serious stare. "You know the rules, young lady. You know why they exist." She did. Everyone knew what happened to the McGinnis family. But she wasn't stupid like that kid, Leo McGinnis. Really, who played with a small flame card next to a stockpile of coals? She had a good plan, though. Granny had been teaching her to read, so she should be able to reason some of it out. And she knew the icons for the more dangerous cards, like fire, lightning, or cutting, so she could avoid those. And with some careful experimentation, she was certain she could figure everything out. But yeah, asking Granny was a better plan, safer. She just needed to work up the courage to share. After breakfast, they worked on their small plot of land. Papa swung at the earth with a hoe, prying away strips of peat, the soil of decayed plant matter. Sweat ran in rivulets down the contours defined by his muscles against his tea-colored skin. It was reminiscent of brooks, glistening in the sun. Renalia took the chunks of peat and stacked them vertically against each other, forming cones. This allowed nature to evaporate and slowly drain moisture from them. Mama tended to their subsistence garden of oats and barley. They worked with a rhythm, interrupted occasionally by laughter or song. Renalia bounced on her feet as Mama dumped the packets of barley and fish from the steamer onto a plate. "Wait till they—" "Ow!" Renalia exclaimed as the steam from the pouches stung her fingers. "Rania, what did I just say?" "It's fine," she said, as she lifted the bottom of her shirt to form a bowl and scooped the two smaller bundles in, only to receive a brief, sharp stinging on her fingers. Mama rolled her eyes as Renalia kissed her on the cheek and bounded out the door. Renalia switched to holding the portable lunch bundles in her hands once they cooled enough, somewhat embarrassed by the puzzled stare she had been receiving from the villagers in the fields. All of a sudden, she felt a tingling sensation. It began somewhere in her navel and spread outwards, a twitching sensation, like an involuntary spasm of the muscles, but not wholly physical. It came from somewhere deep within her, which she instinctively knew was her core. The twitching slowed but grew more forceful. It culminated in a ripping sensation, not painful but not pleasant either. It had a 10-pointed starburst symbol on its back, which she had seen on the cover of Father Cornelius's Bible, but had a weird carrot color instead of the color grades that everyone was familiar with. She mentally flipped her core card, examining the text and icons. D-E card. She couldn't sound out the letters of the first word to form anything recognizable. The icon was also unfamiliar, a rectangle with a line connecting the upper left and bottom right corners. Her core pulsed, spitting out the first of her skill cards. The back of the card showed the expected white color of a common card. The two words on the front side were again unfamiliar, as was the black circle of an icon. She was slightly disappointed in not finding the curled arm symbol for strength, but she had 9 more cards to go through. The second card appeared next to the first one, forming a row beneath her core card. She flipped the new common card over and noticed the same words and icon as the card next to it. As the third card manifested, she hesitantly flipped it over, her eagerness replaced by dread. Her hands unconsciously squeezed the pouches of barley as she looked. It was the same. So was the next, and the next. Her core, it was broken.